What is going on, guys? Mikey P Games here, and it is the Week 16 edition of the D&M podcast. Dom had work and other scheduling implications, so it is just me this week. But, as usual, I'll look back on our last week's results and make both of our picks for the upcoming week. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so looking back at last week, Dom went 14-2, I went 12-4, which if you pay attention to those calculations, it means yes, once again, we are tied. Let's look at this. We're going to go through the games that kind of decided it here. The first game on the list is Tennessee at KC. I said it last week, this could have easily been the game of the week. Two good teams, a red-hot Kansas City team versus a team that's fighting for their playoff lives in Tennessee. Now, I did think this game could go either way, but I did give it to the Kansas City Chiefs, considering I couldn't see them losing this game out of playing Oakland, Denver, and Atlanta the last few weeks and beating all three of those teams. Really shouldn't say Denver, though, because they're Denver fans, I'm sorry, but we all know it's over. You guys knew as soon as Peyton Manning retired and your starting quarterback was either going to be Mark Sanchez, Trevor Siemian, or Paxton Lynch, you guys weren't going to repeat. I'm sorry. A good defense is great and all, but it's not going to carry your team completely. With that being said, Kansas City and Tennessee was a great game. That came down to the last minute. I mean, literally down to the last second, with the Tennessee Titans kicker kicking their game-winning field goal to end the game. Dom got that one. It put us one apart. Next up was the Detroit-New York Giants game, where the Giants made sure that their defense set the bar and sent a message throughout the league, holding Detroit to 6 points, clinching the game with a game-ending interception by DRC, forcing a fumble in their own red zone, and the offense showing their ability to change the game with one play via Odell Beckham Jr. I got the win on that one, separating us by 2 again. Next up, we had the New Orleans Saints at the Arizona Cardinals, which I lost that one, just like that one receiver lost his shoe. So that brought him back in the one. And to finish all off on Sunday night, we had Tampa Bay at Dallas. Dom had Dallas, which he ended up winning that one. Tampa Bay really underperformed, I think, in that game, tying us back up at 137-85. So with 2 weeks left, me and Dom don't have many games as usual that are differing. Looking at the list right now, I only see 3 games that differ, so this could be a very huge week, and for all we know, one of us can pull ahead here or stay tied, and we could end up tying week 17 as well. And it's just going to be a mess figuring out how we're going to do the playoffs with no clear winner. But with that being said, let's get into our Week 15 picks. Alright, so first up we have the Thursday night matchup with the New York Giants traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. And both me and Dom have the Giants in this game. I'm just going to share my beliefs on why I picked. And usually when me and Dom pick, it's usually for the same reason. So you can just say that Dom believes for the same reason. And when he doesn't, you can say it's the exact opposite reason why we have differing teams winning. For this game, it's really this. The Eagles would love to play spoilers in this game, but I just don't see how that's going to be possible. You have an offense that's really underperformed this whole season, but we all know it's Eli Manning and his 3-star receiver, his trio of his star receivers, that is really metaphorically lightning in a bottle. They can strike at any time. But that's not really what's been helping this team win. When it all comes down to it, you have to look at this Giants defense that has been playing well above average. They're probably a top 5 defense in this league right now. I know since week 7 they're leading the league in points allowed with I think it's 13 or 14.7 or something like that. With that being said, I don't see how a Eagles team that has lost 5 straight is going to be able to I shouldn't say keep up, because I think Carson Wentz and the Eagles team can make it a close game. I just don't see how they're going to win it with adversity on their doorstep. This defense is going to give them a real tough challenge like they did back when they met the first time in MetLife. It could easily go like the Eagles game last week, where they were in the situation to win the game on a 2-point conversion, but the Ravens defense stood tall and declined that. It could easily go that way. It could easily go down to that exact situation again. I just don't see how the Eagles will be able to come through in that situation if they are in it. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills, and this can be one of the worst games this week in all honesty. Me and Don both have the Buffalo Bills winning this game. It was a pretty hard decision if you ask me, just because I think both of these teams are a lot worse than their record shows. Yeah, Miami, who really hasn't been tested much this season. They've only played about I'm pretty sure they played 4 teams in which have a possession on a playoff spot right now. And in those games, they are 1-3. Now, flip side of the Buffalo Bills, they have a one-dimensional offense with an defense that has really underperformed this season. So it's really going to come down to who can take advantage of their opportunities so much. I think LaShawn McCoy gives Buffalo the edge here. I know Jay Ajayi can get going, but I still think the Buffalo's defense, while underperforming, is still a little better than Miami's defense, and I think Miami fans say goodbye to the playoffs they have been hoping for this year. Next up, we got Atlanta at Carolina, and Carolina's in position to play spoiler as well. Now, I don't know if Atlanta would exactly be eliminated from the playoffs, but Tampa Bay, with a victory, would take over the South, I believe. Not 100% sure, don't hold me to it, but I think that's the possibility that is at stake at the moment. But me and Don both have Atlanta, and how can you go against a team that possesses the number 1 scoring offense in the league? Now, the defense isn't that great, but you do have to give a round of applause to that defense for holding their own. They aren't no shut-you-down defense unless, they're really playing the 49ers or the Rams like they had the last few weeks, which I think people are overhyping them about. But up against a team that on any given day can actually put up about 20 to 30 points, I think they're going to struggle a little bit. Carolina didn't start off hot, but they are certainly looking to finish strong right now, looking into next season. You got a team that is 1 year removed from the Super Bowl. You know you're not that far off. They didn't have a good year. I mean, they lacked 2 superstars on defense. But like I was saying, you got to look at it right now. Luke Kuechly might play. If they do, that gives them a huge boost on their defensive end. But you can't go against a team that can consistently put up points like Atlanta does, especially with Julio and the possibility of coming back this week. So that's why we both got Atlanta. Next up, we got Washington at Chicago. Dom and I both have Washington, and Washington has almost kissed their playoff chances goodbye. Not only do they need to win out now, they also need some other things to happen, such as other teams losing. But I do think they get one step closer to making the playoffs, at least for the time being, this week against Chicago. You look at Chicago, they have Matt Barkley in. Yeah, they got Alshon. Yeah, their defense is playing a little better than it was in the beginning of the year. But Washington was a team that everyone was saying, oh, they're going to make the playoffs this year. They were a team that everyone was fully committed to saying was a playoff team. And while they really aren't that, in my opinion, they are more put together, whatever you want to say, than the Chicago Bears team is right now. Next up, we got San Diego at Cleveland, and if I didn't want to fall behind too much to Dom in our picks, I would have picked Cleveland, but I do think San Diego is going to win this game, but I do have San Diego on upset alert as well, with Cleveland getting their sole win of the season over San Diego. Probably won't happen because we've been saying it for the last few weeks that it's a trap game for this team, it's a trap game for this team, oh, it's an upset special, blah, 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 blah. The truth is, Cleveland doesn't have much of a defense, so Felipe Rivers is going to simply just do what he does and pass all over that offense. It is going to be a little tough, though, now without Melvin Gordon. Don't know Joey Bosa's status, but I know Melvin Gordon is out, so it might be a little tough. But at the end of the day, I think Phillip Rivers and that offense gets it done. Next up, we got Minnesota at Green Bay, and the truth is Minnesota is not the same team they were when we started off the season, maybe even halfway through the season. They have all but kissed their playoff chances goodbye. Yeah, they're still in the hunt, but they need way too much to happen for it to happen. They're playing a team in the Green Bay Packers who, since Aaron Rodgers said we could run the table, they have run the fucking table. Even with AP back, I don't see Minnesota winning this game to either play spoiler to the Packers' playoff hopes or to find a slim chance of a way to keep their own alive. I think Aaron Rodgers in the offense is starting to become what we are used to, and that defense is starting to get a little bit more healthy. That's why me and Don both have the Green Bay Packers. Next up, we got Jacksonville and Tennessee. And is it really hard to choose a winner out of this? Jacksonville played great against a shitty Houston team. They were up, and they let Tom Savage out of Rutgers University come back and beat them. So, good for the Houston Texans, bro. They finally realized that Brock Osweiler is not the man for the job, and Tom Savage came in and overperformed. There weren't many expectations for the guy to come in since, clearly he was considered the backup, and he was coming in halfway through the first, I believe, halfway through the first half. So there weren't many expectations for him, but he came in, he overperformed, and he got his team the win. Like a lot of reporters have been saying, like I've been saying since the beginning of the season, Tom Savage was the better quarterback in training camp. Hands down, he was a better quarterback. Brock Osweiler benefited from being with a team that has an all-star cast and an all-star defense to help carry them. It's not the case in Houston for him. Tom Savage, when Tom Savage came out, it was like a little connection. I'm sorry, I'm talking about too much Houston here in a game that doesn't involve them. Tennessee at Jacksonville. Yeah, they played good against Houston last week. But Tennessee, did you see what they did against Kansas City? And they're considered one of the better AFC teams right now. They got a three-headed monster on their offense with Mariota, who hasn't thrown a red zone pick in his whole career, with DeMarco Murray, who's second in the league in rushing, and Derrick Henry, who is a beast in the red zone, especially near the goal line. So I don't see, especially how Jacksonville has an interim head coach now in Doug Marrone, I don't see how Jacksonville is going to be able to stack up to a team that is established a hell of a lot more and is pushing for the playoffs. Next up, we got the Jets at the Patriots, and is it really that hard to guess who we're taking here? I do believe Bryce Petty is all good, and he is a go for this matchup, but I don't think it helps the Jets' odds in any way. Yeah, the Patriots clinched their 11th straight or whatever. It's really whatever. The Jets aren't playing for anything but pride here, and I don't think they're going to find it in Foxborough this week. Next up, we got Indy at Oak, and if you think for a minute Oakland, even though they just clinched their first playoff berth since 2002, is going to come in here and just let up on the gas, you're mistaken. They're going to play spoiler to Indy. Indy has a chance to win the South with some help, but Oakland is not going to let their foot off the gas. They have a chance to secure a first-round bye and the second seed. Look for them to do that this week. That team is not going to slow down. I've been saying it all fucking season. Oakland was going to make the playoffs, and they're going to win the West. Next up, we got Tampa Bay at New Orleans, and This is a big game for Tampa Bay, not so much for New Orleans. But Dom has Tampa Bay, I have New Orleans, and this could get really interesting. Tampa Bay underperformed last week in prime time in Jerry World. They had a chance to upset the Cowboys and put my G-men in better position to win the East and take it from the fucking Cowboys. Fuck the boys. Anyway, though, and we got a high-powered Saints offense going up against a defense that has not been talked about all year, and last week it was shown why. So look for that defense to be exposed again against a much better offense than the Cowboys sport. Drew Brees, yeah, he's old, but he's still slinging the ball like a youngin'. And with Brandon Cooks and Willie Snead on his side, I find it hard for that offense to be denied. Next up, we got LA at San Fran. And me and Don both have LA. I'm not 100% sure if Goff will be playing, but with or without him, I see LA getting this win. I think this is going to be the week that Todd Gurley goes off just a little bit, man. I'm looking for 100 yards from Todd Gurley. Not that, I lost last week in fantasy, so it's not like I need Todd Gurley to do anything for me. But I do think this is the week Todd Gurley goes off, gets his first 100-yard game of the season, and Jared Goff, if he plays, gets his first win in the NFL. Next up, we got Arizona at Seattle, and let me tell you the same thing here. Seattle is looking to secure the 2 spot in the NFC, which is kind of crazy considering they're 9-4 in a tie right now. So if that's going to be the second seed record, that's kind of disappointing. But either way, Arizona's all but knocked out, so they're like the Jets playing for pride at the moment, trying to play spoiler a little bit, maybe make Seattle play the wild card. But either way, Seattle's going to win this game. They've turned it on recently, so that the play of their team, especially at home, is in the benefit this week in a Week 16 rivalry showdown. Next up, we got Cincinnati at Houston, and even though Tom Savage was the man in Houston last week, he will not be the man in Cincinnati this week. A.J. Green has returned to practice in a limited role, but with or without A.J. Green, the Cincinnati Bengals offense has been performing pretty well until they got slowed down in by Pittsburgh last week. But I still do believe in this offense being able to put up multiple scores, especially against a Houston team that really doesn't have an identity right now, to get the victory. Next up, we got Baltimore at Pittsburgh. Dom has Baltimore. I have Pittsburgh. And let me tell you, how can you not have Pittsburgh? They are a team that's getting scary, that the AFC opponents probably don't really want to see in the playoffs at the moment. Ben Roethlisberger, who he is, he's Big Ben. Le'Veon Bell, who's been taking a lot of work off the shoulders of Ben and AB in recent weeks, which I think is going to help them open up the air game with Eli Rogers and AB this week against Baltimore. I do think it's a game that's going to go down to the wire, but I don't think Baltimore has enough firepower or manpower to stop or keep up with the Pittsburgh Steelers and make the playoffs. Next up, we got Denver at KC, and this is going to be nothing like the first game, I believe. Yes, it's going to be a battle of 2 good defenses, but we all know the truth about this Broncos offense. It is not good. Meanwhile, over in KC, you have an offense with 3 healthy receivers, a return man who is insanely nice and fast, who is just going to come in and dominate. They're mad after a loss to Tennessee last week. They're coming in, they're looking to keep pace with the Oakland Raiders in hopes that they can clinch the West in Week 17. And to wrap it all up, it's Detroit at Dallas. Me and Dom both have Dallas in this game. I don't see how you can really go with Detroit. They lack a run game, which is going to be huge if you want to manage any clock against the Dallas Cowboys here. And a passing game that looked really piss poor against the Giants last week. You can tell that middle finger on Matthew Stafford's throwing hand is affecting his play a little bit. Now, I'm not one to root for the Cowboys. In my heart, I really want Detroit to show up and kick some cowgirls' ass. But you got a decent offense down there with Dak and Zeke right now, and you got a defense that when it isn't really that good, they more than hold their own and they show up need be. That's why I got Dallas. So that wraps up the Week 16 edition of the D&M Show, and we are slowly coming to an end for our first season in existence here. This time, for the past 4 years, it's been a pretty depressing time for me as a Giants fan. But we're looking for the playoffs, like some other teams in the league. So while football is ending for a lot of fans, a lot of teams in the closing weeks, we're just getting started with the playoffs. So whether you're excited or disappointed about how the regular season ended up for your favorite team, we still got some more football upon us. If you guys enjoyed the video or the podcast, leave a like. Stay up to date on the podcast and other videos I'm putting out on this channel. Hit that subscribe button. And until next time, peace!